Hello and welcome to the Hoop Troop podcast. I am Matt O'Connor, and joining me as he does on all of our shows is my cousin Luke Drobner.
What's up, guys?
All right, and so we're we're less than a week out from some preseason basketball. Luke, we got some media days that went on, and preseason starts next week.
Before we start with this basketball, let's give a shout out to cousin/brother Mike, who's running a marathon this weekend.
Nice.
Want to shout him out, show him the support.
Yeah, the Hoop Troop backs him. We really should, just whatever he's wearing, put a little sponsor emblem on there.
I think we should too.
I saw that a lot of the companies that are actually sponsoring these NBA teams that are on the jerseys, like the jersey patches themselves, they've altered their logos to make it bigger. And I don't know if I probably should have looked into this before I'm even talking about it, but I saw, I don't know if it's because the NBA is saying, all right, your logo can be bigger. Almost, it's not like what they're doing in, European soccer or whatever, where it's just across the chest. But I mean, They're bigger than before. For example, I'll use the Knicks and Squarespace. Squarespace used to be across it was one word just across the, the side of the chest. And the logo was right next to it. Now it's like two lines and a logo. It's much bigger. It's uglier, which is, I don't know why either the Knicks or Squarespace would actually want that. But yeah, I just thought it was interesting. But we should.
Did you send me those photos? How do we know?
No, I was just on Twitter and I saw a group of them. I forget what they were. There were a few other teams where it's ooh.
They still have it up here on the chest.
Yeah, it's opposite where the Nike emblem is, but it's still it's still pretty nondescript. But at the same time, wouldn't you want something that looks a little more normal? When I tell you this Knicks one, it just looks bad. And I don't. Maybe it was just they were altering some things for media day or what, but yikes. I hope that's not what it actually looks like this year. But all right. But yeah, so good luck to, former, current, however you want to describe him, Hoop Troop host, Mike. I'm going up with him this weekend to see the Corning New York Marathon.
How far is that? How far is that drive?
Oh God, I think 2 hours from the city. Ish.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it is. I think it's in the middle of nowhere.
I thought you guys were going to be in the car for 4 or 5 hours.
No, but I do think it's truly middle of nowhere. I think they're known for glass blowing and stuff. Yeah, it's not going to be. It's not going to be the most glamorous of vacations, but I mean, it'll get the job done. It'll be fun, and I'm down to go watch him run. It's always fun. He's done a couple marathons before, so I always have fun going to watch his. I saw him do New York. That was really cool. I actually saw Woj there and botched it. I didn't go up to him. Woj was with his kid in Central Park, truly maybe 20 yards from me. And I saw him, we made eye contact and I clearly panicked a little bit. I think he realized he got seen, he got made and he took off with his dash. Yeah, he kind of dashed. So I think he knew. And honestly, it was around I think it was the right after the KD Kyrie Nets summer. So whatever that was, 2 years ago, whatever. And I panicked. I had so much to ask him. That was a huge offseason for the Knicks and just the NBA. And I did. I was just oh shit, that's Woj. And then didn't go up to him. I totally could have. But yeah, so you never know who you're going to end up finding now in Corning, New York at this marathon. So
you never know.
Maybe if Woj is there, I'll ask him some questions.
All right. So how many weeks are we out from the season? 2? 1?
Episodes?
No. How many weeks are we out from the
weeks out? I think it starts end of October. So I think we have 25 days ish. I think is something like that. 20 to 25. Yeah. Preseason starts, I think, next week. I think the games are spaced out. But I'm pretty sure they start next week. Yeah. So, we're at least going to get some idea of what teams are going to look like. I know you're not necessarily going to play your best players, let alone play them a lot. But still, I mean, I think there's enough you can look at. I think you can look at a lot of teams had coaching changes. You can do that and see there's going to be, I just think you can see how schemes are going to look. Style. You can start to guess about I don't know, for example, watching a Mavericks preseason game. All right, Jason Kidd's going to run the offense like this. Here's what it's going to look like with Luka if he plays. I think it's going to be a little like that, but we'll see. I think we're not really going to know until the season starts.
You saw the Luka at Media Day post I sent, right?
Of course.
Him, curious.
He's locked in.
Locked in.
For
He's
good
ready.
reason. I mean, I think
He wants to get Porzingis traded, so he's got to lock in and be like, "Get me more help."
although like you never know, maybe it works, but I think they got to get him out of there. We'll see though. We'll see. I mean, I think that's something that they're going to end up having to decide either during the season or at the end of it. If nothing changes, he's the weakest link, and they got to get rid of him.
They need a second. Like, I think Porzingis is good on a championship team, but in like a Kevin Love type role when it was LeBron and Kyrie.
Definitely. But I do think that there's something to be said about like you're coming in with the expectation where when Porzingis was in New York, he looked good. Granted, he looked good for 15 games, then started to get hurt and wear down and whatever. But he still did look good. So he worked under one coaching staff. Didn't look great under Rick Carlisle, but that's because of the way that they ran that offense. It just was not designed for him to thrive. I do think, though, if it doesn't work with Jason Kidd, you're 2 out of 3. Like, I think the writing's on the wall there that, like, unless you're the best player on a bad team, you're not going to be this great. So I think they're going to have to do some soul searching at some point, but we'll see. I'm going to give it time. I think I'm going to give the Mavericks an opportunity to, they've made enough changes to their organization that I think, as much as I don't want to give Kristaps the benefit of the doubt here, I'm going to give it to him just at least to start the year. I'll give him like 2 months.
Plus they have Frank now, so second star Frank.
I mean, literally, like I can't think of a better combo than Luka and Frank. Can't. They're going to be dominant.
They're going to lock
seeing him in a Mavericks jersey at media day was not fun. That was really it hurt. He looks good in the white though.
Yeah, because I was worried he wasn't even going to make it back.
Oh, I knew he was going to be in the NBA. Let's not do that. He's a good player. I'll take everyone's real estate on the island, Neil Keane Island. I absolutely am locked in on that. He's a legit player.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, you can live in my guest house, Luke, because I have a mansion out there.
Okay.
Yeah. But all right. So let's turn our attention. We're doing
previews for the teams.
Previews for some teams. Now, you pick 2, I pick 2. How do we want to start this? Because mine are a little more self-explanatory than yours for why I brought them up. So I'm curious why you picked these 2.
Why don't we start with yours because they connect with Media Day, and then I'll bring them.
Cool. So I'm going with both the Nets and the Warriors. And for obvious reasons, because of Media Day, for those of you who were tuned in, I'll start with the Nets because Kyrie Irving, not vaccinated for, whatever flat earth reason he has. He just isn't. And, it is a personal choice, but at the same time, when your city is mandating that in order for you to play all of your home games, that you have to be vaccinated, it does cause an issue. Like he is not going to play in half of his games this year because he won't get vaccinated, which I think really drastically changes the Nets outlook. There have been some reports that KD might be able to get him to get vaccinated, but I mean, that's pretty substantial. If you're going to have the $30+ million on your payroll, just not playing half the games, it's tough. And especially come playoff time, if you can't play, like home court advantage isn't necessarily an advantage anymore. So I think, I don't want to necessarily say it's a deal breaker, but I do think that a few weeks back when there were reports that the Nets were looking into trading Kyrie and Kyrie was saying that he would retire if he got traded, I think there's a little truth to that. Because honestly, if I were the Nets, I might think about trading him. If there's a chance that he's just going to sit out 41 plus games, including playoffs, like why have that?
Who would you trade him for though?
Honestly, hear me out. And you're going to think I'm crazy. Ben Simmons. Think about that. Him on that team would be perfect. I mean, it's a good fit and you could let him.
He'd play center. I guess you'd play power forward, but he'd be your pick and roll set picks type guy.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to basically let Harden and Durant play as your guards anyway. And then if you want Ben Simmons to handle, think about it's the same way that you'd have Kyrie. It's not, Kyrie was going to be on ball plenty too. So I think it totally could work. And I think that, it would kill two birds with one stone, because I think then Kyrie and Philly would be good with Joel, and he would be able to play because Philly doesn't have the same mandate that New York has. And, I think it's very clear now since we last spoke that Ben Simmons just isn't going to show up. Like, he is very much done.
Yeah, we keep seeing those reports.
Right. So I think that something's got to give, and I think that would have made sense. But then you have the threat of retirement. Why would the Sixers do that? So I just think it did. It definitely shed a little light on what's going on in Brooklyn. And I get it. I get why those trade rumors started, because it is a pretty significant thought that he wouldn't play in half those games. That said,
we've sent some stuff back and forth when we talk about Kyrie sitting out games. You kind of say, so he's going to sit out 41 games, right?
Right. Half the season at home.
And let's say it's even less than that, because at some point, let's say it's, February, we're back down to, 7 cases per 100,000 in New York City. They'll start removing some of these mandates, and that'll allow him to play again. So let's say he misses like 30 games because safe and healthy protocols. Isn't that like load management? Wouldn't he miss those 30 games anyway?
Yes, but, and here's why I say that is because when you're doing the load management, you're strategic about it. You sit your one good player when another one's out. Say, for example, then you need to have KD or Harden sit, because both of them do have something of injury histories.
So then have them sit on the road.
Yeah, but are you willing to forfeit necessarily some road games just because? I just think, and I know.
Why would they forfeit road games? They have Harden, they have KD, they have Kyrie. They need 2 of those guys to play. And if you look at their depth, they got guys. They got Patty Mills. Bruce Brown played well last year. They have Blake Griffin, Paul Millsap, Joe Harris.
I know, but say, for example, you're on the road against, I'm going to use a decent team. Let's say you're playing
the Pacers.
Right, the Pacers, who are not, it's just not an easy beat, especially if you're missing
one of those guys.
I guess at that point, you're going to have Kyrie and one of those guys. I guess you're still probably competitive.
They definitely have a fighting chance. Yeah, I don't think they're going to miss one of those guys. If they're on the road in Indiana, Kyrie's going to play.
Yeah, I would imagine. I mean, if he's not playing the home games, he's playing every single road game. He just is. I mean, that's exactly what if you're Steve Nash, he is playing every road game. But I still just don't think from a chemistry perspective, for a team perspective, there's got to be some sort. I feel like that puts some strain on the organization as a whole when you have that situation. No?
On some level, but I think there's so many guys on that roster who give Kyrie Irving the space he needs. He's been crazy. He was crazy last year. I think all those guys understand he's going to be crazy. There's nothing you can do about it, and it's great to have him around when he is around.
I also think it'll be no. I was going to say I think it'll be interesting to see how the NBA handles this, because they already said that he's not going to get paid for the games that he doesn't play in his market, and it's not specific to him; it's any team that has that. So currently, that's the Nets, the Knicks, and the.
We saw that. We saw that some of the teams are going to get tax benefits from them missing games. So Kyrie doesn't get his $300,000 game check. That saves the Brooklyn Nets $900,000 in luxury tax. So, the way I see it, is Kyrie Irving going to miss some games? Yes. Do the Nets care? Probably. As a competitive team, they're going to care. But if they're the 4 seed instead of the 1 seed, I don't think they're going to care. And I'm sure the owner is very happy to receive some of that money back. He doesn't want to pay all that luxury tax. So
no, and right. And I think especially and I was going to talk about the Warriors as well, because they're in a similar situation with Andrew Wiggins. I think that it does. I think, would the Warriors like to save some money on Andrew Wiggins? 100%. Kyrie Irving's not really the guy you want to save your money on. I feel like that they brought him in for a reason, and the goal was for him to play more than 41 games. I just think I look at this and I'm looking at it, and maybe I'm not being sympathetic enough to his thought process. I don't want to be, I definitely think that just get vaccinated. Like, why are we debating this? The science supports it, but fine. For whatever reason, he won't. Like, I just think this is between him disappearing last year, I think he keeps giving me reason as ownership to be frustrated, to be antsy, and to
100%.
be pretty. I would be questioning like just the situation as a whole. Like I wouldn't trust his allegiance to the team, to playing basketball, to winning a championship, to accomplishing the things that they're clearly trying to do.
He's a terrible employee, but he's a savant in some type of way.
Good.
Right?
Yeah, he's just damn good at what he does. I mean, he's top 20 in the NBA. Like there's no denying that.
It'll hurt his earning potential maybe later in his career if he wants to continue to act like this when he's not in his prime. But as of right now, I think the Brooklyn Nets are willing to kind of take it as it goes with Kyrie in order to win a championship, right? And in my opinion, like, we talk about the Lakers. I think if the Brooklyn Nets are completely healthy and they meet the Lakers in the NBA Finals, the Brooklyn Nets will win in 5 to 6 games.
Probably, but if in this scenario, your assumption that these requirements change or anything like that, and say he isn't vaccinated, he's missing the home games in the playoffs too. And as we said earlier, if you're just going to be okay with a 4 seed, you might not have home court advantage in, some or several of those playoff series and the finals. So I just think you look at that and
a Milwaukee team who will probably be at the top of the standings.
Right. And you won't have Kyrie for half the games. Like, I just think it is scary to think that you're going to be without your, I guess in this case, your third best player, which is just the fact that he's even considered your third best player is unbelievable. But I still think that it substantially matters when your backup is going to be still Bruce Brown, who's coming off the bench. Patty Mills, I guess, is going to come in and probably start in place of him. But like that drop off is significant. Like there is no way that you can really take that lightly. So no. I don't know. I think it'll be, I don't even know if I want to call it interesting. I think it's going to be almost stressful for Nets fans watching this unfold. Like, I think it's really not going to be a pleasant experience. So maybe I'm wrong here, but I don't think this ends particularly well.
I'll give you.
All right. So now that I've gotten that out of my system, I do want to switch to the Warriors because I actually, with Wiggins in mind here too, let's say he misses half the games because he's doing the same thing. They don't really have the same leeway that the Nets have, where you have, these two bona fide superstars. Like, I think you're undoubtedly going to have Steph looking fantastic. You might not have Clay looking his best. You might. I don't know. So I think it's up in the air. Mm-hmm. Lastly, like, you have a lot of young guys. You have Wiseman. You have Kuminga. Like, you have these, other guys. I think Draymond hopefully doesn't keep taking steps back, but he didn't look great last year. Maybe he's just been checked out because the past 2 years is, best players have been injured or whatever. But I just think that there's a lot to be concerned about. And Wiggins pretty much had his best season of his career last year. So I think losing him, it's not as bad as losing Kyrie, but it does matter. So I think looking at their season, does losing Wiggins, do you think do you think losing him changes your perspective about where they end up in the playoff landscape?
I think they're definitely gonna be a little lower, right? If their whole team was healthy and Clay plays as well as he can, and let's put that around like a all-star level player. I think they're they could potentially be a top 4 seed in the West. I think without Wiggins, you kind of see them more like 4 through 7. I don't know if it's going to really affect them that much. And that's just because they have so much depth. I'm looking at their roster right here. They have Andre Iguodala, Jonathan Kuminga, Otto Porter Jr., I can't say his last name.
Bielitsa.
Valencia, however you say it.
Did you hear about him with Wiggins in the hallway? at media
Yeah,
day.
Bielitsa.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they have the depth at shooting guard. Shooting guard might be a question, but I think they have lineups, right? Where maybe you don't get the same creation from Andre Iguodala that you get from Wiggins, but I think they have enough players on their roster to kind of figure that out. They also have Moses Moody, who could
Yeah.
also be really great. He's the rookie, so
Right. And I did love that pick. I actually was kind of hoping he would fall to the Knicks at some point, but he didn't. So I think that they have good young pieces, but I think having to lean on them early is not ideal. Especially we saw what happened with Wiseman last year, and I know every prospect isn't the same, but it is. I mean, I think it can when you're trying to be a playoff contender, that sort of thing. It matters. It definitely does. So I am nervous for them as well. I think that given this news, if nothing changes, I think that they're going to be like 10, 11 seed, maybe. Maybe. I mean, like, and that's assuming Clay comes back and looks.
you really think so?
Ah,
I still think they're a great team. I think Curry can keep them afloat long enough for Clay to come back, and then Curry can get a little bit of rest. And I'm not.
oh, Luke, you're breaking up a little bit. We're gonna have to we're gonna cut through this a little bit here when we get Luke back in.
Can you hear me?
Yes. All right, you're back.
Okay, sick.
You're clear. I don't know. Whatever that good sandwich you were eating, I think that must have just messed with the airwaves a little bit.
There's two frequencies of internet, right? There's 2.4 gigahertz bandwidth, and there's a 5 gigahertz bandwidth. My 2.4 doesn't get all the way to my bedroom. So here I am sitting in my bedroom. I got to switch to the 5G.
Damn.
So
well, all right. You're back now, though, and that's what
yes,
matters.
I'm back.
So anyway, we're talking about the Warriors. I was saying that they would be like the 10, the 11, and I'm just afraid that if Clay doesn't come back and look himself, if Wiggins does miss 41 games, I just could see them losing more often than I would honestly like for them to lose this year. I think that they could be a fun team.
Yeah. So I don't know if Wiggins makes that big of an impact. Like I think he's a great player. Obviously 20 points a night helps, but I don't know if we're saying if we have Wiggins playing more, we're a playoff team versus if Wiggins isn't playing, we're not a playoff team. I think you lose Wiggins, maybe you fall a slot or two, but I don't think all of a sudden it's like we're in the playoffs, we're out of the playoffs, right? I think it's more just like we need to see some more from other people. And I mean, like I said, they might not have the depth at shooting guard, but they have lineups. And I think that helps, especially when you're playing a bunch of different teams and you need to kind of figure it out where, maybe one night against the Lakers, you got to play a little big, right? So you play, Andre Iguodala more minutes or Jonathan Kuminga more minutes or something like that. And yeah, like you said, like leaning on some of these guys can be tough, but let's say like Jonathan Kuminga has an off night and then you're on the road the next night and Wiggins comes back, you can kind of work on things with Kuminga. I think this gives Kuminga an opportunity to step up and be a leader and be a producer. And same thing with Moses Moody, especially trying to fill in that role at shooting guard. I think both of them can kind of play that position. You get a feel where like almost like Jalen Green's going to get where he's playing every minute of every game. He's making mistakes and it feels, there's a lot of development there. But when Wiggins is back, it's like, okay, we can take a step back. How comfortable do you feel in this role? And so as things change and people grow and whatnot, you might see some surprises from some of the bench pieces on the Warriors. And that's just how I feel. And I like Steph Curry's so great. It's so hard to think that he can lead a team to at least a playoff run, even without Wiggins, right? I think without Wiggins, they're still a fine team.
I mean, yeah, I agree with that. I don't love Wiggins, but I like him in his role there. And that's why I think that is like, it's again, not the same thing as losing Kyrie, but it matters. Like I'm going to say outside of Draymond, your best defender. Like, I think that, and especially like on the perimeter, that stings a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I think you're right. Like, it's not like it's going to cripple them. It's not like they're losing. It's not like how when they lost Clay for 2 seasons, like it's very different than
right.
So I'm not trying to put the same gravity, but I do think it changes their outlook a bit. But you're right. I mean, if you save some money on the luxury tax bill, like I guess you don't mind if you're, ownership. It just isn't that big a deal. All right, now that we've gotten
projected to make 31 million, so
yeah,
I think he said that post. They save $1 million every time he sits a game,
and I think it's something like that. Or I think it's less. I think so. It's
if you're like a fringe playoff team,
I think it was like
a fringe playoff team. Let's say they missed the playoffs. Wouldn't you rather like have that $1 million back if you're the owner?
Yeah. I mean, yes. If you're just the owner, when you've already had your 3 championships with the other guys, like,
right?
Yeah, I'll keep my money. Like but then again, your window, you understand as an owner, your window with Steph, Clay, like this group is closing. You don't really want to forfeit a year, but if you're going to have to, then yeah, might as well save some of the bottom line while you're at it.
Trade Draymond and Clay for draft picks, and Curry's you can't disrespect Curry. If Curry wants to be on the roster, you let Curry be on the roster.
I mean, I think you owe that to Clay too, and
to a
lesser degree, Draymond. But yes,
no, if you owe it to Clay, you owe it to Draymond. I think they both have equal.
I don't know. He's not a splash brother.
He's not a splash brother, but I don't think those Golden State Warrior championship teams are the same without Draymond.
No,
he makes or breaks those teams.
But they're not
because his ability he can guard 1 through 5. He's so switchable. It makes it so easy.
But they're also not the same without Iguodala. Like it's just you had a bunch of those. They're not the same without Kevin Durant.
You could, no, of course not. But you could find a replacement for Andre Iguodala. You could find like another 6'6" wing who can shoot and play defense. That's a very standard build for the NBA today. But it's so difficult to find someone who can play that small ball center so successfully like Draymond Green has. Like, you kind of get a little bit out of like a Marcus Smart, but even then, like not the same level as Draymond Green. I think Draymond's ability to be a defensive leader and his ability to create space for Clay and Steph to do what they do. I don't think there is, I think it's invaluable, especially those championship teams. So,
all right. Then yeah, you are much more loyal to Draymond than I would be if I was.
Ben deserves his respect.
Yeah, I mean, sure, fine, but if it meant winning another one with Steph and Clay, he's gone. he's hit the road, buddy. You're done.
But I'd do the same thing if it was like Clay or Draymond. I would be like, yeah.
You would.
You don't know what Clay's gonna look like when he comes back.
Right? I don't care. I would, even if he's just sitting in the corner shooting. I do not care.
Is Draymond annoying? Yes. Do I think he has some really hot takes? 100%. But when it comes to on-floor impact, I think Draymond and Clay might fall around in the same value of a replacement this year.
Maybe. Don't know.
A tweet to back me up right here. Zach LaVine praises Draymond Green as the best teammate ever from their time in the Olympics.
Okay. Has Zach LaVine ever played with LeBron? Draymond is probably not the best teammate you could have. He didn't play with Steph. He didn't play with half the guys who were supposed to be on the team.
Are you trading Draymond for LeBron?
No. I'm just saying you can get leadership elsewhere.
Okay. Yeah.
Like I don't. Also, like Steph has been in the league forever. He can be my leader. Draymond can leave.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right. I've gotten my Nets and Warriors fixed. So I want to change gears now to 2 teams that I really didn't overly think about until you said, all right, let's pull them into the discussion. So where do you want to go first?
Yeah, let's do the Grizzlies because I feel like I have a lot to say about the Raptors.
Okay. So where do you want to start with Memphis? Because my head goes first to the Steven Adams trade that happened this offseason.
Let's just talk about their roster is a little different than it was last year, and they're a growing team. They're making a playoff push here. So,
do you think adding Steven Adams helps?
It gives them a different look. I think Jonas Valanciunas is a very good player, but I don't think he was necessarily the right fit. It's almost like a.
I don't know about that. He was pretty damn good for them, and like
Oh, don't get me wrong. He great center, great rebounder. Scores 20 points a game. He's had some massive games for them too. He's had games where he goes like 30 and 20. Or I almost relate him a little bit to like a Nurkic pre-injury. Where you kind of say like,
but
wow,
he can spread the
really,
floor
really,
better
really
than that. Like he's definitely like I just think
Steven Adams is reportedly working on his shooting, so you never really know what Steven Adams looks like, especially in this new Grizzlies offense. But I think Steven Adams is a better pick and roll partner for John Morant, and I think Steven Adams plays better defense, especially when if you have a healthy Jaren Jackson. Like, what does that look like playing next to Valanciunas for Steven Adams? Or they have other guys on this roster who can kind of create their own shot a little bit. Dylan Brooks kind of showed flashes last year in the playoffs where maybe he could play a little bit pick and roll, get a shot off the bounce, something like that. I still think they're looking for a true wing scorer. When it's the game's on the line, are you dumping the ball in John Morant's hands? Maybe, but you'd rather have like a Kawhi. You'd rather have a Paul George, right? And I think they have some people who could potentially be that in the next couple of years. They drafted Zaire Williams out of Stanford this year. He's like 6'8", had the scoring potential, blah, 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 kind of fell. His draft stock fell a little bit because he had a subpar year at Stanford, but we've seen players kind of have an off year come into the league and be different. Like De'Aaron Fox had the way De'Aaron Fox was supposed to be John Wall at Kentucky. Still had a great year. Didn't shoot the ball great. There's a lot of questions about his game coming in, whether or not it would translate. And he's proven that it was just an off year for him. So maybe it was kind of the same thing as Zaire Williams. I think that, we have a team around him. Why not just pick him up and say he could be great at some point for us? Why not take that risk? And they they picked up Jarrett Culver from the Minnesota Timberwolves.
That's a project,
which I think is interesting because 100% a project. And they've done this with other guys. They had Josh Jackson from the Phoenix Suns, who's drafted 4th overall. They brought him in, kind of trying to want to see what he would do.
Didn't really work.
You never really know with him, right? Like when you draft someone high, you draft them high for a reason, and it could just be that the place they were in was not conducive to their growth. And you kind of see that with Jarrett Culver.
Mm-hmm.
I think Jarrett Culver kind of got shoved down to the bottom of the depth chart on the Timberwolves roster, especially when you draft Anthony Edwards 1st overall. And
you have a Kogi there. Like there's just guys competing for similar roles
for minutes. Right. And so I think Culver could end up being a 6th man type player. I could, you could see both Zaire Williams and Jarrett Culver kind of being like a Karis LeVert. So, and that's kind of what they need, right? They just need someone to score outside of just like a set offense. Cause I don't know if John Morant has that ability to do that yet, where like he'll shake and bake someone and pull up for a mid range. I don't know if you agree with that.
I just don't know. I look at the roster and I don't know. Is it better than last year's team? And like,
I wouldn't say so.
No. And that's why, unless the players you have on your roster make a jump, and not only make a jump, but a bigger jump than players on other rosters make, how are you then going to be fighting for a legitimate playoff spot, not just a play-in spot?
I kind of see them as like the New Orleans Pelicans. They have a lot of young players, they solid pieces. It's whether or not like you're going to see these guys take a step into being playoff players. I think Steven Adams is a proven, he's been in the playoffs. He's sure. He could be that guy who's kind of, there's guys on that roster like Jaren Jackson, Brandon Clark, Xavier Tillman, who all kind of, could use him as a mentor. And I think John Morant's got fire in him. I think we all know that. Like he's looking to dunk on people. He's looking to make plays. He's trying to win. I think he brings a mentality that ends up putting you over the top. I don't want to say, I don't want to be like, oh, Zion's bad. Zion's never going to be that, this, that. But you kind of don't see that from Zion, right? Like you don't see this oomph, he's great. He's great, but there's an intangible aspect to being great,
Yeah, I don't know. He's pretty damn good. But getting back to media day a little bit, did you see? I mean, he broke his foot and had surgery. Somehow they kept that quiet throughout the offseason, but you never know what he's going to look like. That's 2 injuries in consecutive years for him. Not what you want to see if you're the Pelicans when your 300-pound star is getting hurt pretty much every season. But anyway, back to the Grizzlies. I know what you're saying. I think Ja absolutely has that, killer mentality. It's almost like I don't want to say it's not Michael Jordan, but it's kind of like that, where you have that just like will to win. He's going to attack the rim and just wants to just kill everyone. He kind of has that.
And at some point throughout his career, and like I love this year is not the year. I'll say that about the Grizzlies, and that's just because I think it takes longer for these guards to get good. Like he's only 21, 22. I don't know how old he is. He won't be that guy until he's 24, 25, 26. And he'll start entering his prime where he starts making like these brilliant point guard plays. He'll start, being a scorer rather than like a pick and roll type guy. And it just takes longer to learn that as a point guard just by the nature of the game.
Yeah, I mean, I do. And that's why I think having and again, I still think Valanciunas would have been just the better fit as a whole. I think there's something about continuity as well, and familiarity with the players you're on the court with. But I think Steven Adams, having played with some of the better guards of our generation of basketball, like I think
Westbrook and Morant draw a lot of comparisons.
I mean, and then you throw Chris Paul in there too, who he's played with. He's also played with SGA. I think he's been around some great talents and he's learned quickly and on the fly what works in those systems with different guards who are stronger at different strengths. So I think that he can bring a lot to Ja, and I think he can say, hey, like, I'm going to do this, this is what I used to do with Westbrook. This is what I used to do with him. And like, they would think some things out. At the same time, though, like,
perspective.
But you lose the pick and pop that you had with Valanciunas, which I think
I'm not concerned about it at all. Dylan Brooks is a shooter. Kyle Anderson is a shooter. Jaren Jackson's a shooter. Morant can shoot. So, I mean, if Adams just is rolling, nothing wrong with it. It just, and I think they have I think there's a lot of shooting on that team in general. So,
I mean, yeah, I guess I'm just not as optimistic as you are. Like I thought it was a strange move, and I guess they did make consecutive moves after that to get other pieces, like you mentioned.
Also, like, think about guys like Blake Griffin, who's like miserable in Detroit and didn't really want to play there, and kind of didn't play well. And then all of a sudden he's on the Brooklyn Nets. He's doing stuff we haven't seen him do in a long time. I kind of feel the same way about Steven Adams. I don't think
Steven Adams just shouldn't have been on the Pelicans. That was I don't know why they did that to themselves. It was a terrible mistake, but like, I do think that he's going to have to bounce back. Just situation alone for Steven Adams, this is so much better than being in New Orleans. Like, that was a terrible fit. It was not at all conducive for him to have like success. So I just thought it was a strange thing when they did it. And I understand why the Pelicans swapped, because Jonas is now going to space the floor so Zion can be down low and doing his thing and shooting like 78% from the field. So, but all right.
What's Jonas Valanciunas' 3-point percentage? I'm looking this up. Okay, he shot 1 3 a game at 37%. 1 3 a game at 37%. I don't know how often he's like. I think you're right. He's definitely a better shooter than Adams, but I'm not sure if that goes all the way out to the 3-point line. I think he kind of gets in there at the long mid range, and that's my 100% different than Steven Adams, who you're not comfortable taking those shots with. You don't want to say like, oh yeah, Steven, go ahead, take those shots, but maybe I'm wrong.
No, and I mean, I think that's fair. Like, I look at it, and even if it's not 3-pointers, like, I think it's mid-range shots. Like, I just think there's enough that he did to give you comparable, like, rebounding the ball defensively. That's more why I look at it that way. But I know what you're saying. Like, I do fundamentally think that there could be an improvement with Ja and Steven Adams versus Ja and Valanciunas. But again, I'm just gonna have to wait and see. But I'm a little skeptical.
Okay. All right, let's move on to the Toronto Raptors.
Sweet, hit me. What do you got?
This roster is garbage. This is going to be a terrible team.
I did not expect you to be so negative. I thought this was going to be a positive Raptors experience.
No. This is going to be. I think the Raptors are going to be absolutely terrible this year. They're going to finish near the bottom of the East, which means they're going to be near the bottom of the league.
Wow, you think they're going to be that bad?
Yes,
back in Toronto. They're not even the Tampa Raptors anymore.
No, I don't think Pascal Siakam or Fred VanVleet should be considered as a first option on the team. I think they have pieces who could be around for a long time. You know, you extend Fred VanVleet and Pascal Siakam and OG Anunoby. I'm pretty sure they just extended Gary Trent Jr. You extend these guys as you continue to draft. I think you end up having something in a couple of years, which is why when we look at their draft and all the draft boards are like, you got to pick Jalen Suggs. You got to pick Jalen Suggs. And out of nowhere, they took Scotty Barnes. I think that was so brilliant. That's just,
my God. And I guess, yeah, you're right. You're giving,
you're sticking with that
credit.
We're thinking about like what type of build. You think about like the Cade Cunningham versus Jalen Green debate. Like, how could you not pick Cade Cunningham? 6'8", plays like a point guard. You know, he's really a small forward. Like, how do you not like that, right? You know, you got guys like LeBron and Grant Hill and Luka, right? They fit that mold. Scotty Barnes is the closest thing to that. And if you're trying to make it all the way, right, where you have like a bona fide star, you have a guy who's a top 10, top 5 guy in the league, Scotty Barnes is your best chance at number 4 to do that.
Wow. So you're a pretty firm Scotty Barnes believer. I mean, I don't dislike him at all.
I think Nick Nurse has done this a million times. You think about the development from the Raptors G League onto their Raptors roster and then into the championship year. You talk about guys like Fred VanVleet. You talk about guys like Pascal Siakam, right? And you know, you'd like to see some more development out of someone like OG Anunoby, but when you got guys on the roster who kind of take away minutes from him, when you got, you know, you're kind of looking to have him more as like a role player, you don't see the you know, he doesn't reach those Kawhi Leonard levels. But I think with Scotty Barnes, they're going to look at it completely different. I think they're going to take it nice and slow with him. I think they're going to make him work hard. I think he's going to get better year in, year out.
I mean, all right, let's look at this. So he's probably not going to start because you're going to be starting Anunoby. He's probably going to play like 20 minutes a game, I'm guessing, something like that. Yeah. Which I think is perfectly slow. Maybe they mix it up. He plays at the same time with Anunoby. I don't know. But if they are playing it slow, wouldn't you want to see him in the starting lineup? Like if he's kind of your future, you sprinkle in some Gary Trent minutes.
You'd love to see him in the starting lineup.
Yeah, eventually. And I'm not saying you have to do that right away, but I'm also looking at this in the mold that you're saying where they're not going to be in contention for the playoffs. I kind of disagree. I think they're I think they're going to be in contention for like the 10 or the 11. Like they're not going to be really in the heat of it, but I think they're going to be.
No, they're going to be terrible.
I also think like they have Dragic on the roster,
and you know what? You know, Dragic is gone. He's a middle of the season trade.
Right. You're bringing someone back for him. Like something is coming back in that trade, and it'll help
because a second round pick and a role player.
And another role, add another. Like I just think that this team has enough talent on it between everyone we've described that you can put together wins.
They're gonna put together wins. Don't get me. I don't think any team in the NBA right now. I don't think there's a single team in the NBA right now where I look at their roster and I say this team is garbage. I don't think there's a single team in the NBA right now. I think this is a competitive team. Fred VanVleet and Pascal Siakam are proven winners. You're gonna show up in Toronto. You're going to have to play hard. You're going to have to play 48 minutes of basketball almost every night. Let me also ask you this.
Okay.
Scotty Barnes played point guard in college. You take Fred VanVleet off the floor, or you take Gary Trent off the floor, and you put Scotty Barnes in at point guard. I think that's how we're going to see Scotty Barnes play. I think we're going to see a OG Pascal, Scotty Barnes lineup at some point. You even might see Precious Achiuwa in there at center. They have these guys who are all between 6'6" to 6'10", can guard 1 through 5, can shoot the ball. They have 4 of those guys on their roster. OG, Pascal Siakam, Scotty Barnes, and Precious Achiuwa, who looked pretty solid for the Miami Heat. I think he was second team all-rookie. So I think they have an incredibly versatile roster. I think a lot of these guys are going to get a lot. There's going to be a lot of load management or injuries. So.
But that's why I think for the reasons you're describing, that they'll be able to string together some wins. Like I think they're gonna be competitive in most games they play this year. Like, I don't think they're going to be getting blown out of the gym. Like, they're not.
No.
But because of that, like, I think that there's going to be plenty of games that swing in their favor. And if they do have the cohesion and chemistry that, I think a Nick Nurse and Masai Ujiri-led team can have, I don't see why they can't be a play-in team. I'm not saying they will, but I don't think that they're going to be a bottom 5 team in the NBA.
Maybe a play-in. They're not.
That's what I'm not right. I'm not saying that they're going to be this, tough out in the playoffs. No, I think they're going to be fighting. They're going to be they're going to be like what the Pacers were last year.
Let me ask you this: Name 10 teams. Name 5 teams worse than the Toronto Raptors in the Eastern Conference. If you look up the Eastern Conference right now and you look down the list, name 5 teams that are worse than them. It's really hard to do.
Detroit. I'm going to go with Orlando. I am going to go with this is tough. Cleveland, probably. There's
I'll give it to you.
Yeah, and then it gets a little tough. But that's why I think that they're going to be fighting for it, because I think you're going to have teams like, I don't know, Charlotte is good, but are they going to be playoff good? I think they probably are. I think teams like Indiana, I think a team like I don't know, like the Wizards. You're right though. It's going to be I think they're going to need to have some things break their way.
Like realistically, I could see them 12.
Yeah,
I can't see them any higher than that. Though.
But do we know the Bulls are definitely going to be good? I think they will be. I think they're probably going to be.
I can't. But the Bulls are at least top 10.
They have more talent than Toronto, which I agree.
Based on talent, they're gonna the worst they could possibly be is 10, 11. That's the worst they could possibly be.
That's on paper. And so I'm saying, didn't we say that everyone thought the Knicks were going to win 20 games last year and they won 41 in a shortened season?
That's because Julius Randle came back as the most improved player.
Okay. And what if Siakam plays like the guy they paid him to play like?
I'm
just saying I wouldn't write it.
Yeah.
Off.
Okay.
I think
if Pascal Siakam has a Julius Randle type season, I could see them being great.
Look, I'm saying maybe he put something else into his repertoire other than a spin move into the paint. Just think that's all Siakam was doing. And maybe he worked on stuff in the offseason. He had a long one. You never know. I just think there's enough reason for me to be optimistic that they're not going to be staying in Tampa, not in their own beds or near their families. I just think, I think they're going to be more comfortable and they might win some more games and be somewhat relevant.
I want them to be bad so bad. Let's look at
I want them to be bad. I don't want. Well, I guess I do want them to be bad. So it's just wins for the Knicks. But I don't know. I don't dislike this Raptors team. I like everyone on their roster. Just as far as there's no one who I'm angry with.
Right. I know the top players for the 2022 NBA draft: Paolo Banchero and Chet Holmgren, who I think would both fit very well on the Toronto Raptors.
You're already on it.
I'm already on it. I want them to.
But they're not in the position where you would go best available either.
All right. On Tankathon, you ready for this one? Tankathon's got them at 11 in the NBA. Out of Purdue University.
There it is.
Jaden Ivey, who is a lot like John Morant. I watched a lot of his basketball because, as you might know, I'm a Purdue alum.
There it is.
He's a little John Morant-y. His mom coached John Morant in middle school or something like that.
Interesting.
So,
all right. He's got to have someone to model the game
6'3", 6'4", skinny kid. He's got flashes. You see him do stuff on the court, and you're just like, phew. So
that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Lottery. That's the first lottery pick Purdue's had in a long time,
that's progress.
It is progress. We're building a program here.
Yep. No, I don't think they draft for fit. I think they do draft for fit. They're not necessarily just going best available because of the guys you have in your roster, which I think can lead to issues.
I think they're going to look for a guy who can be that guy. They're going to look for a guy who can be a Luka or LeBron, and I think that's who they're going to try and draft.
I think they're going
I
point
don't
guard.
know outside of Jaden Ivey, Paulo Banchero, and Chet Holmgren. I don't recognize any of these names on this draft board.
Well, in all fairness,
I don't really know who they'd be drafting, but
in all fairness, we have plenty of time to start to get knowing the prospects. I hardly even.
Yeah.
I mean, we got plenty of regular NBA season and college and everything to go.
I'm trying to get in the mind of Masai Ujiri right now. I'm trying
Impossible.
to think about how many steps ahead is he than the rest of the NBA. I want to know.
There are 29 other GMs and prospective GMs trying to figure out where he's at and how many steps ahead he is. So
and he's somewhere on another level. I can almost guarantee you. So, and I think at some point during the season, the Raptors will probably pick up another first round pick or something. They'll move some pieces around. They'll try and find ways to increase their chances of hitting the lottery and hitting the lottery big. So
yeah. I mean, I think it depends on how the start of the season goes. But yeah, I could easily see that. I could see them shedding and just, trying to do development, that sort of thing. And, you have your little silver lining wins. What was that?
If there's one, I'm excited for the Raptors. If there's one team where I'm like, wow, this team is so bad, but I have to watch their game, it's going to be the Raptors this year. I'm excited for Raptors basketball. I mean, I don't even like,
I'm trying to think of another one. Luke is frozen again. Oh, you're back. All right. We lost you for a second there. You got frozen.
I'm back. Okay.
You were given a big one of these.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah.
Hey, yo.
Yeah, there we go.
I'm excited for Hornets basketball too. I don't know if I've told you that. I think LaMelo Ball is electric. I think they got like 6 or 7 guys on that roster who are so athletic. They're going to throw down some crazy dunks. We're going to be seeing highlights all year. We're going to see LaMelo bounce the ball off the floor for alley-oops and stuff.
Well, and I mean, I think we talked about this in a different episode, but how those now second-year players didn't have a full training camp last year. There were like no practices during the regular season because they had games back to back to back. And you factor in LaMelo got injured. I could see him having like a pretty incredible year too. Like I think, especially with the pieces around him, if Gordon Hayward can stay healthy, I think he could actually very much take a huge step into stardom. Not that he hasn't already, but I could totally see it.
I want to say so. There's a lot of young teams in the league right now. Pelicans, Rockets, Timberwolves, the Kings. I guess you can kind of put in there. Grizzlies, Atlanta Hawks are pretty young. We talked about the Magic. We haven't talked about Magic. The Magic, Raptors, Hornets. All the Cavaliers, the teams I'm excited to watch, the teams that are going to be bad that I'm still excited to watch, they're all in the East. I don't know if that's a good thing. I don't know if that's a bad thing, but I'm excited to see the Cavs and what they can do. Darius, the combo up front, Sexland,
I mean, they might trade away half of Sexland because they don't want to extend them, but yeah, I know what you're saying. Like, I think that there's a lot of intriguing young teams that, it's not like I'm going to go into a game. I think the only one that I'm not thrilled to watch, and like, even so, I will watch a couple of their games. I don't really care about Orlando's team, the way it's constructed right now. Like, I want to see Suggs, but that's like it, kind of.
Wendell Carter Jr., no?
I guess
Gary
that's
Harris.
True. In their new home, they drafted Wagner, and they brought in his brother. So
True.
and I guess that's interesting. Fultz, if he comes back, Isaac, if he comes back.
They got some athleticism.
Yeah.
They have Jonathan Isaac, but he gets injured so often that I can't.
Right. So I mean, yeah, there's a lot to be. That's why I'm excited. A little preseason basketball never hurt anyone. Just flick on a game at night. You never know who you're going to see.
I'm trying to see the 7-footer lineup from the Cavs. I'm trying to see Jarrett Allen,
Taco.
Not Taco. Jarrett Allen, Lauri Markkanen, who's the guy they just drafted? I can't remember his name. Mobley. They have like 4 guys who could potentially start on the floor at the same time and all be around 7 feet.
Yeah.
Would that be a good
have
lineup?
A lot of big guys.
No.
I mean, like, that's why.
If you're down 30 points in a game, why wouldn't you run that lineup?
Well, I don't understand trading for Markkanen when you you got Mobley, you just extended Jared Allen, like you had a ton of height. And then you're like, hey, it's fine. We'll just take some more.
Maybe he'll learn something under Kevin Love and he'll turn into something great. But
I mean, maybe, but Kevin Love might be out of there too.
I also think Mobley, I think a lot of people underestimate how well he'll be able to play like a small forward type role. Yeah. I think we're all like, oh, he's 7 feet tall. He's going to play center.
I wouldn't be shocked. I think it's going to take time for him to develop that portion of his game. He seems way more of as far as looking like a 3, more of like a spot up shooter than I'm going to go create my own shot. But like, I do think he can do that more in the post, at least starting out.
If he's going to create his own shot, it's going to be within 10 feet. It's going to be in the post.
Yeah, exactly.
But at the same time, like he could step out and he could be a wing. Let's say you're playing like Markkanen and Allen. If you need him to, I feel like you could put him in the corner and let him thrive there. I think he'll see some minutes at small forward. I don't think he'll see big minutes at small forward, but
right. No,
we'll see it.
I think that those again, like you mentioned, a lot of these Eastern Conference teams have a lot that they could work with to experiment because they're kind of in a position where they know they're not contending, but they very clearly have a roadmap to do so. And so you're going to start to figure out what works, what doesn't, and then start building around what does work. So you're right. I think we could easily see some interesting combos.
When you're getting blown out by the Bucks, you play your crazy lineups.
Yeah, I mean, why not? At some point, you got to experiment. And also, like, whatever. You can sit some guys every once in a while, and it'll be fine if you let Mobley run point for a game and bring out your 7-foot lineup.
Hey, Taco would play point guard.
You're right. He's got to get in there.
Got to get a little point guard.
Yeah. But all right, we've effectively been on for a while, Luke. So why don't we wrap this? Yeah, why don't we wrap this guy up? It's my bedtime. I got work and class tomorrow, so I got a big day.
It's only 8:00 for me.
I know.
I figure out what to do for the next 2 hours.
Yeah, it's coming up on 11. I'm gonna get some sleep. I'm gonna be dreaming about this conversation in basketball. So it's a good way to end my night. But
all right, great,
sweet. All right. So for those of you who have made it this far, this is the Hoop Troop podcast. Join us next time for some more preseason action.